should make the YouTube go live now. So now I have YouTube live and Twitch on live, and goal is going to be to look at some of the videos that have come out from AGS. I haven't seen any of these yet, and kind of like go through some thoughts. It's funny like reading the comments before I like go through these videos though. Uh, and then because it seemed like a lot of people had like kind of stuff they wanted to talk about from interacting with the Discord. My gosh, my dogs just keep barking. I don't understand. I closed the window shade so they can't see out. I closed the door so they can't even get into the room, and then they just find somewhere else to just bark at random things. I think they're just bored. This is their first video with a positive like to dislike ratio in a while. Yeah, that's true. But like, I was just reading the comments, and it's like remove aimbot, remove no tab target, like remove aimbot. Like everyone has a very similar opinion here, and I don't think AGS is going to be able to remove this right away. And we could probably talk about that too, but I could re-talk about it later. But I think that they can't remove the aimbot because they never worked on aim assist because they're lazy. And if they don't have aim assist ready, and they take away aimbot, all the console players will be like, wow, it's so hard to aim on controller. Like, I really don't like this experience. And they're just going to be like throwing their hands up and not having a good time. And from their perspective, they probably care about the console success more than the actual like PC players at this point. I just wish I had those graphs saved. Wait, did I download those graphs? Oh, I do have them. Because... Yeah, because console is above where Steam is. It's not much above it, though. That's the other weird part. It's like consoles at like, what? 22K, but were like the last data that we received, when at the same time PC players are at like 9K. So there is more console players than PC players. That like makes sense for some of their decisions, I guess. I wonder what the ratio of console to PC PvP players will be like. I don't know. I feel like PvP and this game don't really mix well together for a variety of reasons. So I kind of get why they're going that direction or going. Like, in terms of like instance content that's per server, they just completely fucked it up because every time they increase player numbers, which you would think would drive more like open world engagements and like that sort of PvP, I feel like it gets more and more like people join together to kind of like prevent newer people from getting into the war scene. Like it almost works counterintuitively because people are trying to defend their slots, like they're and so they can still get slotted. So they just like are trying to be more oppressive and like war camp people that are declaring for the first time and just like not let them have a good time and like not enable them to really play the game. Like it kind of works backwards. Did you include the regular New World Steam charts because I was seeing them a lot closer? Uh, no, this is based off a New World database before they like ripped it to shreds. Like I don't think it actually shows the server pop stuff now, right? Yeah, he took it away again. Because he showed the, or no, he just didn't add it back. Um, yeah, you see this estimated thing? Like they had data, and then they AGS got rid of the ability to view data, so the only way that they can estimate now is just off of Steam charts, basically. So it's like we have no idea what the actual pop is per server, but based off the Steam charts, based off historical trends, we can guess how much are on each server, which is like really fucked. And there's no reason to do this from AGS's perspective. The only like, okay, there's no good reason to do this from AGS's perspective. All the reasons to do this point to either the game not being heavily populated or like some form of malpractice. Like they just want to control the narrative to some extent. All right, cool. We got some people joining from the YouTube side, so I'm waiting a minute here just to have people kind of come in, and then I'll be watching some of the New World interviews that have come out recently, and then kind of going through there and kind of talking about how things are going. Oh, cool. The chat's actually working now. The chat wasn't working earlier. Do I want to put the dark background on? I think I do. I was kind of playing with the chat a little bit. Uh, and there's a way for me to make this dark. I don't know if that updates in real time. It does not update in real time. Do I hit save somewhere? I hit save. Okay, I hit save. Yeah. It honestly looks uglier. No, I'm gonna make it transparent. I'm trying to make it so that it's like partially readable, but I don't think there's a good way of doing this. Like I know with there's ways to have like the text be like a dark bubble that pops up for some platforms, but not with like stream elements is just what I'm using. So just gonna have to deal with the text being on top of random colors. Don't watch the vid yet. I needs to help my mom with something. Sure, man. I'm gonna give it like another few minutes before we kind of get into this and talk about random stuff. How are these numbers looking? It is interesting that they choose to do a guy like an interview with a guy with like 1.25k subs. Like that's not who I'd be going for if I were them. Like if it were to do an interview with someone to try to like gain exposure, you usually want to go for like bigger audiences, but those guys are actually give you the hard questions too. Dad, you came back. I told them you just went to get milk and they didn't believe me. I wouldn't say I'm back, but we're doing some content. I can't say I've played New World in the last 2 months, but I still know more about New World than the devs do, even though I haven't touched the game in a bit. Micro, I'm planning to go IG Spear for Bruiser replacement. Troll or good idea? Likely Troll, but I don't know. Those changes are kind of crazy. Like the changes to Grit in particular, like open up the doors for like a lot of weird abilities to, or like a lot of weird things to be possible. Like it feels like bruisers like almost don't want to run Great Axe anymore. Like Great Axe seems like a not so great weapon with the 300 con change. I think Great Axe would be useless. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I think Great Axe is like a chase like assassin kind of thing, kind of like where SNS is now. Like if you don't want to run a shield for some reason, like I could see it being okay in like light and stuff, but like where Great Axe currently is, I don't think really makes a lot of sense to go in the long run. Did you subtract the non-beta servers from your total line in the chart? Uh, yeah. Whoever put this together did. Yeah. I didn't put this together, but someone was putting this together. What's his name? I have. Oh, now the Discord doesn't want to show anyone in my Discord because streamer mode's enabled. Let me disable that real quick. Disco Spawn gave me this, and he collected this data when the beta was live. Because I actually think giving grit to abilities would have been an interesting experiment. They did that on the NDA build, and then they thought it would be a little bit too good. I think it would have been interesting, but they thought it would be too good. But right now, they need to just give grit to 300 strength, 300 con. I mean, they just. I don't think they're really thinking that long term. I think a lot of these decisions are very hindsight and they don't really think about the ramifications. Like, if you look at the attributes for this update that's taken a year, they've touched like two of these. And one of them was like. I think they touched the ammo being returned because they realized that they're getting rid of ammo. So they added like a haste for 20 or for 5 seconds after you kill something. Like and the only reason why they added that is because they're getting rid of ammo. Like it's pretty stupid. Oh lord. Yeah, back to a ranting stream. All right, what do we got from the YouTube side? Anything? Oh, we do have people. I think console should have aim assist, but yeah, aimbot shouldn't be a thing at that point. Tab targeting is in this game now. Yeah, that's what I think most of us agree on. Is aim assist should be a thing. The thing that I think AGS messed up on is they never. I don't think they ever developed aim assist. They had the aimbot that they kind of ported from PvE, and they're like, oh, we could just slap this into PvP and no one will complain. And they're like very very wrong on that. And if they get rid of it, I don't think they have like a backup system to fall back to. So then console players just wouldn't have any kind of mechanic to help them aim and then that makes people upset when they cannot easily aim on console. Because it turns out it's kind of hard to aim when you have two joysticks. So what's the news? The news is actual humans talking into a camera. I haven't watched these videos yet. There's been a lot of discussion about these videos, and kind of wanted to get into that. Now, this other one's apparently a little bit more informational, has less views, so I don't think it will have as much reach. And this one has more reach, but is less informational. It's more of a highlight kind of thing. Here we go again. It's okay, I'll sit and it's actually gross that they call this aim assist. It's not. Like, there's things that they speak of that are like kind of political speak. Like you say political speak like for aim assist because it's like, oh, it's aim assist, you know, it will help you aim. Like, it's not taking over anything in terms of PvP because after 15 meters my aimbot doesn't work because there's a projectile. Like, it's like it's baby's first aimbot is what they built, and then they're selling that. Meet Girl Live, finally some new content, Giga Chad. I mean, we put out the video did all right. I think a lot of people have kind of tampered their expectations, so we'll see. I've been trying to not be super negative in all the videos because I feel like for the last like 6 months I've just been negative, and it's like been a reason why I don't really want to play the game, but also like it's the reason to not play the game, if that makes sense. Like you actually like people like the game so much that they like kind of fall into the fallacy of like being in like an abusive relationship. It's kind of silly. For me, I'm making the videos on it because I know people want to see the videos on it, but I've been playing Deadlock more. And Deadlock's been really fun. But I haven't been making videos on Deadlock because Deadlock videos that are out right now are like, it's kind of a weird formula. Like, you have people that just post gameplay and that's it. And then you have people that like post random tips and tricks, I guess. And that's kind of it. But I don't know. Like, there's probably a niche for me to fulfill in Deadlock, but I've seen what Duke Sloth has done, and that's not really a niche. Like, he's trying to be informational, but it's not really a game where people care a ton about information right now. New World need an apology video, honestly. If you apologize, you admit that you did something wrong. Like, if there's anything you should learn from US politics for the last 10 years is it's better to not apologize than it is to apologize. Like, it's better just to make up facts at that point. Like, if there's one thing to learn from politics in the last 10 years. Gonna make some executable videos for Deadlock for sure. There's nothing to do right now. I mean, if you guys have ideas for Deadlock videos that people aren't covering, it's just like when I look at Deadlock videos and like I like kind of look at that market, it's like I don't know if I really fulfill a niche there. Like, there's some stuff that isn't echoed well to the community. It can be like an info guy, or it can be like a tech guy, but like it's like Like, right now I am just like, the way I play the game is like I think of the game like from a macro perspective, and like I'm better with the macro than other people, and that's why I win games. All right, we're starting to get people in. I think we could start looking at these. Let me check YouTube, see if there's anything I'm going to miss before we kind of go into this. This is an aimbot. Show us where Scott touched you. Oh, God. Hell no. What the fuck? That's not it. All right. Let's see if the audio is working. So let me know if this is loud for you guys or not, and then we can kind of adjust it and play it back. Is that loud or is that not loud? Nice wallpaper. Thank you. I like my Star Wars wallpaper. It's kind of cool. Play some mini Motor Blades later. Audio is good. A little loud. Okay. I'll turn it down a bit. 5% too loud. Okay, I turned it down on my Steam settings because I like it this loud for me. Is that fine?
When New World launched in 2021,
is this
we
good?
Could have never anticipated.
Good? Okay. We'll start over then, and we'll get into this. So this will probably get uploaded to YouTube at some point. I don't think I'm covering anything with the chat, so I'm going to be going over to New World related information videos here. There's been some stuff that's been put out from the devs, which is surprising to me, because I feel like the marketing people have been like trying to hide the people that have made the game recently, and then just putting out like generic content. And they're like, don't worry, devs, let us take the wheel. We nailed this before. We're going to nail it again. We're going to get a bunch of people to buy our game. They're going to love it. they're not going to refund it, and the game is going to thrive because of us. And they're like, don't worry, we'll carry the boat from here. And this is the first time we really got to see the devs kind of speak about things.
When New World launched in 2021, we could have never anticipated the incredible response it received. Millions of players logged in and for the first time found themselves on the shores of the mysterious island of Eternum. They experienced our vision for an open world game with classless action combat combined with deep and varied RPG systems. And
I'm not gonna lie, this is like professional quality, and most of the stuff they put out is not professional quality. Like, this is really good from AGS already, like in terms of the visuals and the marketing perspective. Marketing is so good for this game.
a massive shared world.
Maybe too
We've
good.
evolved New World over time, with dozens of content updates. New massive zones like Brimstone Sands and the Elysian Wilds. New weapons like the Blunderbuss, Greatsword, and Flail. We've added seasons which bring regular updates with endgame challenges and new quests.
I think they've added
New World
4
today
new
is
weapons
a
in
very
total.
different game than New World in 2021, and some of the biggest additions and updates to the game are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC this October.
So they're actually acknowledging that it's the same game. They're not
New World Eternum is the definitive New World experience.
trying to hide
It's
that.
all of the content added to the game since launch, plus a number of exciting features and updates for both new and current players. For the campaign, we've created a bigger, better, more cinematic experience that can be completed solo or cooperatively. The storytelling has evolved with new cinematics, new quests, and refined progression and leveling systems.
Dude, they are way too good at marketing. Like, half the stuff that they just said in the last minute and a half is a lie, but they're so good at this, like, the storytelling here, and like the blending and like editing is like been so good that like I bet 90% of people will just believe everything they just said. But as people pointed out in the chat, a lot of the stuff that they are saying was not true, like already. But we're gonna try to go through this whole thing and then kind of go back through this. So we'll just kind of like go through it a second time and break it down a little bit more in depth later.
Players can interact with NPCs with a new and enhanced dialogue system, and everything has been optimized with full controller support.
There's
Default
also a
keybinds.
new player experience to help introduce players to the world of Eternum. It's beautiful, mysterious, and acts as a great introduction to the deep lore and mechanics of the game. For New World veterans, we have some really awesome endgame experiences planned for you as well.
Do you? I don't know what they
A
do.
major addition coming to New World Eternum is what we're calling the Cursed Mists. Cutlass Keys has been transformed into a larger and more treacherous open world PvP PvE zone.
When players enter the mists, they're immediately flagged for PvP.
That is so funny. They're calling it the Miss? Dude, they literally stole this from Albion and they made it 3 times worse. The thing from Albion that works the same way as this is called the Miss. But they have all this technology into it that makes it so that you can't identify who other people are, so you can't team. And they're calling it the same name, doing the same thing, but making it worse, and that game's been out for 6 years. Oh, okay.
All bets are off in this area. It's a total free-for-all. No grouping,
Like,
just
at least call it
every
something
adventurer
different.
for themselves. This free-for-all zone is also heavily populated with new enemies, special resources, and valuable treasures in cursed chests.
You'll have to survive against not only other players, but also powerful enemies to earn cursed doubloons, a special currency that can be exchanged for rewards at the Well of Fortune. The gear that you get at the Well of Fortune is some of the best endgame gear in Eternum. But with the highest rewards in the game come the highest risks. You'll have to tread lightly. If you die in the Cursed Mist, you drop some of your cursed items, which of course can be looted by other players for their own gain.
One of the most exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever 10-player raid, the Hive of Gorgons. After defeating Medusa in New Olympus, players will learn of a new threat. The Gorgons have risen, and they're raising an army of the Hersine.
So we're gonna have
stop
2
them,
raids
you'll
to
have
do, 'cause they
assemble a
updated the
team
old
of
raids
powerful
too.
players, enter the Hive, and negotiate a gauntlet of challenging puzzles and epic boss battles.
The raid has some of the best boss battles yet in New World. They're massive, imposing, and each require a unique strategy to take down. In the Hive of Gorgons, there's danger at every turn, with deadly traps to navigate and seemingly impossible mazes to solve.
But the rewards are well worth the effort. Max level gear for all playstyles, armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only level gear for
I
all
saw
playstyles.
pictures of this everywhere. It's so funny. They show like the endgame gear. It's like, oh, look at this endgame gear, and then this guy's wearing like a green amulet and all of this, and has nothing in his inventory, and just has like 900k gold for some reason. They did parts of this well, but parts of it are really silly too. I'm like, look at his stat distribution. Like, what is that? Like, who knows 350 strength, 114 dex? Like, hello? He's exploiting.
Armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only the best warriors in a tournament. The Hive of Gorgons also features a soundtrack unlike anything we've ever done before. We had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with an indie composer from Switzerland named Joel Schosch. It transports you straight into the heart of the raid, creating a powerful contrast with its visuals. We can't wait for you to experience it.
I've heard the raid
many
is really
new
good.
mechanics, bosses, and enemies that are unique to the Hive of the Gorgons, and there are incredible rewards
New
to
World.
earn. We're looking forward to players discovering all the secrets of the raid.
Whether you're a new player or a seasoned veteran, New World Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased to 725, and we're introducing new daily soul trials,
But it's actually worse to run higher gear score items because we can't fix our own game.
which are challenging single-player boss fights for powerful gear.
Matchmaking will be featured across all game modes, making it easier than ever to connect with friends and new players. We'll also continue to run seasonal events post-launch. To our community, a big thank you.
To our existing players, thank you for holding off the corrupted invasions and building a great community.
To our new players, we want to welcome you to Eternum.
There is a beautiful world awaiting you.
This is the first chapter of a new era for us, and we can't wait to share everything we've been working on with you this October.
We'll see you in Eternum.
Okay, first impressions of this is marketing killed it again, but oh my god, they are really good at telling lies and smiling. They are really, really good at that. So, shout out to both marketing and the people that are in the video. Dave looks even more dead inside every video. Oh yeah, that's kind of a given. So let's kind of like go through this like piece by piece. So we kind of went through the whole thing there. I kind of want to go through it again, but then stop at key moments. Like, wanted to like focus a little bit more on the cinematic side that time. Side note: Katie could be hot. What? Dude? What are we talking about?
When
There's
New
some
World
things
launched in
here that I want to pause
2021,
on.
we could have never anticipated the incredible response it received. Millions of players logged in and for the first time found themselves on the shores of the mysterious.
So, like, for the reference here, New World peaked at around, for people that are, like, new to this or seeing the YouTube video, let's make this bigger, actually, and make it a different color. New World peaked around 900k people playing at the same time when it first came out, and then this dropped to about, I think it was 5k recently. So that kind of shows you the big trajectory of the studio and, like, why they had to go to console. It's not that they wanted necessarily to go to console, it's the, hey, we actually lost our entire player base because we didn't satisfy what they need, or like their desires. So like we need new people to bring into here. Like we need to expand our group, and we can either do that through globalization, which they've kind of tried but sort of shut down in terms of like the AP Southeast servers. They've actually kind of closed most of them. A lot of the players from Brazil have now just played on the US East servers because they realize that the players in Brazil are like, those servers are like kind of just dead. So like a lot of that hasn't really panned out. So that's like the main reason why they had to go to console here. It's not necessarily that they wanted to, although like, you know, it's a good opportunity. It's just like their hand is sort of forced at the same time.
Island of Eternum. They experienced our vision for an open world game with classless action combat combined with deep and varied RPG systems in a massive shared world.
Notice they say RPG here, not MMO. Like they're really trying to push that narrative that New World is an RPG. I think this is mostly because on console MMOs tend not to do very well. RPGs tend to do a little bit better. And geez, I kind of agree where they don't think he does. He just means it well, and it could delegate stuff better. They just seem to go way over what he wanted. I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff like from a communications standpoint that AGS doesn't do well, as much as like they had that talk at like some studio like that they got paid to do or something silly like that, where they talked about how AGS is really good at communication. I feel like it's kind of the opposite, and a lot of the stuff's been kind of two-faced and not felt genuine. And that's something I think New World kind of needs to improve upon. Still.
We've evolved New World over time, with dozens of content updates. New massive zones like Brimstone Sands in the Elysian Wilds. New weapons
this
like
is
the
their pitch to
blunderbuss,
come back,
great sword,
right?
and flail. We've added seasons which bring regular updates with endgame challenges.
The seasons, they're not even consistent. Like at one point they skipped an entire season and had it go twice as long and didn't bring anything new. And they've also introduced technically a total of 4 weapons in 3 years. A Void Gauntlet I think was kind of planned and was kind of like teased right when the game first came out. So I think it's more like 3, and Void Gauntlet was just like kind of on standby. But they brought in Flail, they brought in Greatsword, they brought in Void Gauntlet, and why do I not remember the last one off the top of my head? But they brought in 4 new weapons. Most of them were like fairly impactful. I think Void Gauntlet was the one that's like in Flail but not really been used very much. Flail in particular is like, I think like no one really uses Flail for anything. It's just unfortunately a master of none kind of weapon, and it's occasionally good for utility, but it's just not common to see.
And new quests.
Dagger still missing?
New
Yeah.
World today is a very different
BB.
game
Yeah, you're
than
right,
New World in
Blunderbuss.
2021. And some of the biggest additions and updates to the game are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series.
My issue with most of the stuff is they're spinning content that's already been released as new content, right? And I think part of that is that they haven't really done that well in the last year. And then part of this also is they kind of launched in the middle of COVID, and I don't think people were just as productive during a COVID from an AGS standpoint. Like there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I think people are distracted. There's conflicting like guidelines in terms of what people want to do, and it feels like that's kind of panned out to be less content overall.
Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC.
Because they're hoping to
this
snag
October.
people who haven't played since launch. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, we just talked about this. Like, if say you have 900k people, and then this drops to 5k people, that is 895k people that we could potentially snag if we say, hey, look, we did some cool new things. And that, to them, is money. And money is what drives decisions here. It's not necessarily them, like, to me, this is the weird part, because like if money drives your decisions, the answer to any business people with money is just throw SaaS at anything. Like make it a subscription-based model. You incentivize doing active development, and then you also have to deliver an active product. But they're going for like these expansions, one-time kind of content pushes. And I think it's because they don't have the resources to really support an active product, but they try to make it seem like they do. And what usually happens in New World is you have your release, right? And then you have like roughly 3 months, and then you have no new content for 9 months, and then we have another release. And then this cycle kind of repeats itself, and you can see it in the player charts too, where people will spike to see the game, and then it'll like gradually fall down and then spike again. Like their event system just isn't something that tends to draw people in, because the loot from the event isn't really good for the end game. It's like a mid-game level reward, like on your way to getting into the game, and it's just like not well timed. Pistol leak at 0.27. Is there actually? Oh, I mean, I think it's supposed to be like Blunderbuss, or it's supposed to be like early character art. Like I don't think it's necessarily like a new weapon there. Yeah, it's a Blunderbuss. Yeah, it seems like a Blunderbuss. That being said, it's a really cool like skin if they were to add that one into the game.
Are set to arrive with the release of New World Eternum on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC this October.
The main thing to notice there is they say PC last. So they're trying to spin this as like it's coming to, like, they prio the console things before they prio the PC, mostly because the PC is older and they're thinking they're going to attract a bigger audience from the console, which is why, from a diction standpoint, you'd emphasize going for them first. And we saw that with the player charts too when the beta came out. There were more people playing that were from the console side than there were from the Steam side. And then recently, they've come with the decision to hide these player numbers so that they actually have to be estimated now. And you can't tell which server's dead and which server's alive, because people are looking back at the game after the beta. They're like, okay, I want to get into the game. Let's get into a server. And they're like, okay, I actually don't know which server is full. And like, we don't know either. Like, it's all hidden at this point. and that's bad from a lot of like transparency related reasons. And we'll just generally make stuff. I think a little bit. We'll make stuff a little bit more dispersed. Like people will be more evenly populated amongst servers and not be as dense on the bigger servers. But it's just like it's scummy, in my opinion. Like you shouldn't hide that information.
New World Eternum is the definitive New World experience.
Not gonna lie,
It's
the
all
gathering
of
and
content added to
is the best
game
part
since
about New
launch,
World,
plus
probably.
a number of exciting features and updates
Gathering
for both
resources
new and
is
current
very
players.
satisfying.
For the campaign, we've created a bigger, better, more cinematic experience that can be completed solo or cooperatively.
I appreciate them like completing the campaign, but I've already completed this campaign 7 times and I can't be bothered to do it an 8th time. Like it's like actually a chore at this point, and I don't think anything can change my mind at this point because I've done it way too many times. And they also didn't add in a 4th character slot, so for people that have 3 characters, people are considering either moving a character to a different region, which will then put all your characters on a 1-month cooldown, or you can pay to or you can delete a character basically. And it feels really stupid to delete a max level character to re-level it from start, but that's like what people are looking at with the fresh start here. I've heard Force Slot is leaked from beta. That's something I could ask about to people that are playing on that hidden build, but like I don't think it's guaranteed. It makes a lot of sense to introduce a 4th slot though.
The storytelling has evolved with new cinematics, new quests, and refined progression and leveling systems. Players can interact with NPCs with a new and enhanced dialogue system, and everything has been optimized with full controller support.
Apparently their default keybinds are really, really bad to the point where there's been a Reddit post that was posted recently that had hundreds of upvotes that was like, hey, use these keybinds for New World and it'll just feel a lot better. Like it feels like they didn't really test their own thing there super well. Or they just don't have people that are kind of competent leading that effort of making stuff intuitive, if that makes sense. Like if you've ever used an Apple product versus an Android product or something like that, not saying Apple is strictly better, but the stuff feels more intuitive to use and there's a lot more emphasis on making things intuitive. Like the other day I noticed with my TV setup where it shows channels going from 1 down to a number, but if I, on my remote, press down, it will effectively go in the opposite direction of where the channel is. It's silly things like that, where it's if you want to go down, point the thing down. It's really simple things that people miss a lot. And this stuff that makes that helps make the game really intuitive. From a controller standpoint, there's certain buttons that are used for common games on controller. If you look at Call of Duty, they've been doing this for 20 years now. You probably want to kind of try to copy some of those keybinds because they're just in a good spot. And instead it feels like New World tried to reinvent the wheel. New World's generally behind in a lot of the aspects because they've tried to reinvent the wheel, and I don't think they really nailed this one either. Ironically, the combat, which we all enjoy, did the same. People unfairly hated the game since it's not tab target, and so many people cry about low numbers or low number of abilities, for instance. But I mean, the low number of abilities, I think it's fine as long as there's only a few. The instant you add in tons and tons of abilities, it kind of gets crazy and overwhelming, and it just makes it hard to really know what's going on. If you play Throne of Liberty, for example, it's come out. It's there's every character has 20 different abilities, and it's from a visual standpoint, if I'm watching that game for the first time, I have no idea what's going on. If I watch New World for the first time, I actually kind of can understand what's going on. If I watch Deadlock even for the first time, I can understand what's going on. But there's a lot of games that kind of fail that first look test, and that's something that New World's done well.
There's also a new player experience to help introduce players to the world of Eternal. It's beautiful, mysterious, and acts as a great introduction to the deep lore and mechanics of the game. For
this is a lot better.
We have some really awesome endgame experiences planned for you as well.
They haven't released any of their plans from an endgame standpoint after this expansion, and we have gotten the PvP related zone, and then we've gotten the raid. It's the second New World raid. The first one I think was okay. It was just one fight. It wasn't super crazy, but it was fine. And I think in general New World's still been behind on this stuff, even though there's games like Destiny that have been out for 10 years and they've already had really, really successful raids, and the game's just been pumping out more and more and more of them. New World's just finally getting into what raids are, and it's a little bit old for this archetype, to be honest. The PvP side, everyone's kind of talked about it. Target lock kills 90% of the hype for the PvP. I think 5% of it for me is killed because their endgame content loop is still a chest run at its core. If you actually dig into it, like you have to go to a spot, you have to gather a resource, and I'll probably talk about this in a bit when they go back to that area. But going to an area, gathering a resource by hitting a button is just like, it feels like a chore to me because it is a chore. Like it's not engaging, like entertaining gameplay or anything like that. It's so I don't know. It's okay.
A major addition coming to New World Eternum is what we're calling the Cursed Mists.
And this triggers me too because the game that nailed the mist is Albion. It's the best part about that game, and they call it the same name, and it's half as good, if that. I'll get into why.
Cutlass Keys has been transformed into a larger and more treacherous open world PvP PvE zone.
When players enter the mists,
So they call that PvX. It's not PvEVP. It's PvX, where X is anything.
they're immediately flagged for PvP. All bets are off in this area. It's a total free.
This would never happen because you have a healer here, right? And like three people be like, fuck this healer in particular. We're gonna kill that healer. And then after they killed the healer, then they probably wouldn't fight each other. It'd be two people that fight the one person. And then after that, then maybe these two fight each other, and maybe they don't because they're actually friends. It's like these kind of things weren't really thought out, and that's what the Mist and Albion nailed. Because where you could identify this person from this person, this person from this person, right? They're all unique models. In Albion, you can't identify people at all. Like, they don't have a unique name. They're in a separate instance. They spawn in a random location, so you can't easily group up. And there's like a timer based on all of this. So it's like really, really hard to nail this. And this is what that Mist concept comes from. It's the direct name of what they call it in Albion and why it's so effective. And there's chests that spawn. Everyone knows where the chests are that spawn. So people fight over these like their little hot zones. In New World, it's just chests are in marked locations. I'm going to go run to this chest. Oh, now there's a chest over here. I'm going to run over to that chest. Oh, there's a chest over here. I'm going to run over to that chest and press my collect button. And there's just not as much involvement in it. Like, it's like, I think people realize this in about 2 weeks, and then they'd be like, wow, this is shitty. And it is shitty because they just didn't really take lessons from other games and nail it well. Like, one thing that you do if you're like a studio like this is you do your market research. You see what other games did. What did they do well? What could we steal from them? Because it turns out that not everyone can invent the wheel twice, and it's better just to steal things that are liked from other games. And I don't think they really nailed this. The dropping half your stuff on death that you gathered from the zone, I think, is somewhat beneficial. But like, say I'm a PvP player, I go in there with Bisque gear, I have no loot on me, and I'm just trying to kill people. If I die, I don't drop anything. So like, I'm just gonna hunt other people, and there's no risk reward there. Now, beyond, you lose your set if you go out there, so you lose your gear set, so that's a little bit more risk reward. I don't think New World would really have the capability of doing that, but maybe losing like 5k gold or something like that, and you give it to the other person, or like a tenth of your wealth, or I don't know. Like, there's other ways to like get around that mechanic that I don't think they really explored either. The influence races seems like better content. They are, but they don't give us good rewards. So, and because New World has gone from a vertical progression with this expansion, where there's only 2 good endgame reward systems with the island. So you have the PvP track, which is the island, right? And then you have the raid track, which is the PvE track. Everything else is discounted. So you have OPR. This is not going to be endgame loot. You have 3v3. This is not going to be endgame loot. You have influence races. I'll just abbreviate that, IR. That's not going to have endgame loot. You have mutations. That's not going to be endgame loot. You have invasions. That's not going to be endgame loot. And all of these, because they don't have endgame loot, are just going to feel like chores, and they're not actually going to be something that like people want to actively do because they don't give you endgame stuff. I guess the other thing to throw in here too is war. But like, people don't really play war for the end game route. This is like actually just a really fun game mode. Realistically, the only way to get 3 perk gears from raid inductors, it calculated like 300 gears to get a single 3 perk burst item from the PvP doubloon chests. Yeah, the PvP is not really a way to get gear. The main way is going to be that from the raid, and I think the way that you'll see loot is because there's a schematic that drops that crafts gear that is not bind and equip, because it's apparently a different set thing that I've been looking at. And because it's something that can be sold on the marketplace, that would be the main way to get gear, but it's like not super consistent. Dark matter equal umbrals, all content is rewarding. War is just 200 people anyway. Yeah, like war is not like endgame content. Like they could have made this into endgame content. It just failed at this for 3 years, and they just like bickered on like what to do with war, and they've just left it the same because they don't know what to do with it. Like the one thing that they should learn from war is that cleanse pots are good, and they should add cleanse pots to other modes, but they have not like gone through with that. Wish they add practice wars already. Yeah, like stuff like that. It's like common sense, but they just haven't done it. Gonna be farm city. People are gonna be get so butthurt out there for the PvP area. Yeah, I mean the other thing about the PvE area or the PvP is like, say I don't really want to fight each other. Well, I know who my friends are, right? And I can group up with my friends, run from here to here to here to here, and I just invented a chest run, which has already existed in New World, but people are now doing it together instead of solo because AGS didn't really think that people would do that. So when this first came out and this leak for this PvP island first came out, I told the contacts I have in the NDA beta side, it was like, hey, like if they don't change this, people are going to team together. And the spot I got was a quote from Scott Lane, and he said that we just hope that they won't team together, basically. Like he was like, I'm paraphrasing there, but he was saying that, oh, we don't think people will actually team because that's unfair, and why would they do that? Like they just don't understand players at their core. Like if people are going into a spot where they're risking things, they're gonna team together. Like the only way that you would make that like not possible is like by making everything like bind on equip or bind on pickup or something stupid, so they couldn't redistribute rewards at the end of it. But that's not going to be the case. So I don't know. It's like a thing that like they kind of lost me on. Isn't he like 60 as well? We've looked at this before. The last game that Scott worked on that was really successful was like a WWE SmackDown game. And it's like, how do you go from like working on WWE? I think there was a Marvel game too in there, but he went from like a fighting background to New World, and some of the New World fighting stuff is really good, but like, how do you go from like a fighting background to like leading everything from New World? It doesn't really make sense to me. Like you should be trying to get someone from like, try to poach someone from Blizzard who's like decently high up there that was like a VP and they want to be a director but never got an opportunity. Like that's where you go to. You don't go to like the dude that led WWE SmackDown 24. Like I don't understand that at all. But that's in the past at this point because AGS can't revert that decision super well without like firing him. But it doesn't seem like they ever want to do that. So
For all. No grouping, just every adventurer for themselves.
that's not going to be the
Free
case.
for all
I
zone
wish.
is also heavily populated with new enemies, special resources, and valuable treasures in cursed chests.
Some of these can drop
You'll
scarabs,
have to
by the
survive
way.
against not only other players, but also powerful enemies to earn cursed
Just saying this as an aside, but she has a cute fit. I'm not gonna lie.
doubloons, a special currency that can be exchanged
Looks
for
good.
rewards at the Well of Fortune. The gear that you get at the Well of Fortune is some of the best endgame gear in Eternum. But with
Everyone
the
else is
highest
like in a
rewards the
t-shirt, but
game
like
come
her
the
thing is like
highest
actually kind of
risks.
fits it a little
You'll
bit.
have to
Like,
tread lightly. If you die in the cursed miss, you drop some of your cursed items, which of course can be looted by other players for their own gain.
5v5 arenas win. Yeah, they haven't really done a lot with 5v5.
One of the most exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever
Are there 10 people in this? Did they actually nail this right, or did they mess this up somehow? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where are the other 2 people?
one of the most
It's a 10-person raid. Why are there 8 people in here?
exciting new features coming to New World Eternum is our first ever 10-player raid, the Hive of Gorgons. After defeating Medusa in New
When
Olympus,
recording the
players
camera?
will
That's
learn
what
of
I'm
a new
thinking.
threat. The Gorgons have risen, and they're raising an army of the Hirsine. To stop them, you'll have to assemble a team of powerful players, enter the Hive, and negotiate a gauntlet of challenging puzzles and epic boss battles.
The raid has some of the best boss battles yet in New World. They're massive, imposing, and each require a unique strategy to take down.
I'm not gonna lie, watching this 2 seconds of gameplay doesn't make me think that like they're very mechanical at all. Like you have one tank that's holding aggro, a bunch of people here just like they're either healing or just like shooting the boss some range, and like a bunch of other people just chilling. But I imagine they put like an easy version of this world event vibes. Yeah, that's what I am saying. Like it looks like a sponge to me. The first 2 fights have already been leaked. I didn't realize they've already been leaked. I'm probably not going to show them immediately here because if I do, AGS will figure out another way to give me a copyright strike, but that's something.
Take down. In the Hive of Gorgons, there's danger at every turn, with deadly traps to navigate and seemingly impossible mazes to solve.
But the rewards are well worth the effort. Max level gear for all playstyles, armor sets, melee weapons, and artifacts for only the best warriors in Eternal. The Hive of Gorgons also features a soundtrack unlike
like 3
anything
artifacts.
we've ever done before. We had the amazing opportunity to collaborate with an indie composer from Switzerland named Joel Schosch.
I love how he's like going out there with the xylophone, using his hand to like stop things. But this dude is playing everything. It's kind of cool. But he's also just like a one-man army, it seems like.
It transports you straight into the heart of the raid, creating a powerful contrast with its visuals. We can't wait for you to experience it.
There are many new mechanics,
Video is really cool.
and
They showed the
enemies that are
entire
unique to
creation
the
of
Hive
the
of the
song.
Gorgons, and there are
I didn't
incredible
watch
rewards
that,
to
yeah,
earn.
that's really cool.
We're looking forward to players discovering all the secrets of the raid.
Whether you're a new player or a seasoned veteran, New World Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased in veteran.
Like, is it just
New World
me? Like the gal earlier had like a really cool fit, and like everyone else is here is just like, oh yeah, we're gonna wear the most basic T-shirt to make sure that we don't have a logo on or anything like that. Like, I don't know. Like it's like a small detail, but like
Eternum is stacked with amazing new adventures. Gear scores being increased to 725, and we're introducing new daily soul trials, which are challenging single-player boss fights for powerful gear.
Matchmaking will be featured across all game modes, making it easier than ever to connect with friends and new players. We'll also continue to run seasonal events post-launch. To our community, a big...
wait. Oh no. Oh no, they're using the same seasonal events again? I thought they would at least show a new seasonal event. Oh.
To our community, a big thank you.
To our existing players, thank you for holding off the corrupted invasions and building a great community.
Real thanks, Jake, because no one else wants to do that shit.
To our new players, we want to welcome you to Eternal.
There is a beautiful world awaiting you.
This is the first chapter of a new era for us, and we can't wait to share everything we've been working on with you this October.
We'll see you in Eternum.
Okay, for real though, when are they gonna make invasions like actually like entertaining and I don't know. But yeah, I mean, great piece of marketing. I also agree with every single person in the comments that they need to remove aimbot from PvP. It's literally all top 6 comments. It's so funny. I don't know. Oh my god. The crazy part about that is like they were told by this by like the remaining PvP players, which is like very few in an NDA beta. But like it's just like you don't mix aimbot and PvP. Like even aim assist is controversial enough because there's ways to effectively get aimbot on the consoles with things like the Zim, which is just keyboard and mouse, but they hide it as console inputs, so you just get the aim assist, which effectively makes with the keyboard, which just makes it like really strong. Like that's normally a controversy, and there's some games that have even solved that. But you don't just go, you know, we're gonna level the playing field completely and just put in aimbot, and we're gonna take away the one thing that people talk about New World always being positive, which is the combat. Like that's a big oof. Like I don't think you really want to mess with the combat that much. And that's like one spot that you just don't want to mess with it at all. It was just the aimbot basically here. Like they're marketing it as aim assist. It's literally aimbot, but it's like poor man's aimbot because it doesn't work with projectiles past a certain meter range. But it's still an aimbot, and it's still OP for melee players. It's still OP for blunderbuss. It's still OP for musket. Like anything that's like hit scan or has a high enough velocity to borderline be hit scan and a short enough range will effectively be really, really good with this. Keep scrolling, Micro. Why? Are there more weird comments? Oh my god, it's just more and more about the... Is it really just aimbots? Over and over and over? Oh my god. They're still gonna find a way to not listen to this, because I don't think they have a backup plan and there's 15 days. But... wow. Like, for reference, the feedback I get that's the most common on the videos from, like, people that are returning to the game is like, I was really interested in checking out New World again, I looked at the beta, it looked really, really interesting, and then I found out they added an aimbot, and I just can't get behind that. And it's like, ooh. I mean, there's some people that are excited, but like I think they definitely missed on a lot of this. Control F target lock. I mean, it's just gonna keep going. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about for this video? I mean, we've kind of talked about everything individually. I just haven't done it as much on stream. But the major things to note is they added in that aimbot and they've rebalanced 300 con, which I think most people don't like. Because people don't like stagger mechanics, and they're trying to make it so that people have to think more about the mechanics of the game, and they have to focus on either blocking attacks or going for heavy attacks, and they can't just spam light attacks. But staggering is just not generally fun in games, and they added that as like a base functionality, so I don't think a lot of people like this 300 con change. Oh, not that one. This is what it used to be. Basic melee attacks gain grit. If you go to open beta and go down here, then this is the new one, where it's grit while charging and performing heavy attacks, so just use your heavy and then don't worry about getting interrupted, I guess. Seasonals are there for life. Don't mind them if they make any other actual content and they update the gear. I mean, that's the thing, is like they didn't update like anything. Like if you look at New World Database for the thing and you look at 725 gear score, you'll realize that there's not many avenues for 725. Like this is all Gorgon. I think there's a few new things. So Apex Curse, Gold Curse, so that's like the new area, right? And then like immediately we start going back into the old content. And a lot of this is like procedurally generated stuff too. Like there's a life staff that is like has the perks of like not a life staff. Like you can't even get blessed on it. I forget what it's called, but like there's stuff that they just didn't really think about, and there's a lot of like illegal perks that they didn't even like double check too. So like they just don't really do their homework here. And like everything has Keen on it for some reason, which just makes it useless because Keen's just like not that good of a perk in this day and age, because your crit damage modifier doesn't really affect the damage outgoing, because damage outgoing or like reduction of crit damage is just so high. Mikro, do you think that any of the new artifacts will be OP? Yeah, I mean we've talked about that a little bit. I think I haven't broken up into a separate video. I think. Oh, maybe I made that a video at this point. I feel like I should have. If we go to Hive of Gorgons, like they added 3 new artifacts. Like, do I think any of these 3 new artifacts will be OP? Wait, no, there's more than this. There's more than this. Like, that's not the right filter, because they added in like a chest piece too that was pretty good. I think that the chest piece is the one that gets me the most excited, the Survivor's Coat. Everything else kind of seemed okay. Like Survivor's Code, I think will be really good for being a solo player. Everything else like looked fine, but like nothing crazy. Like I know some people are thinking that Azoth conductors could be good, but like I don't know. Like I feel like people just don't want to go medium. Like if they want to optimize for damage, you still go light and you pick up a different artifact. If you hit an enemy while your mana is below 50%, gain 4 seconds to 25% increased damage with a 10-second cooldown. It's just like not as good as some of the other artifacts. The problem is they didn't balance the old artifacts too, so there's just like certain artifacts are just like outclass the new ones completely, and they'd have to make something like really, really OP. Like unironically, the most viewed artifact, if you go over the New World Database and I go to like the new area, is literally this one because it has a cool skin. Like that is it. Like no one actually wants this because it's good, it's just because it has this cool eye thing. What about the Great Sword? I mean, this is just worse than Serenity, no? Like, whenever you enter offensive stance, gain 6 seconds of 20% move speed. Like, I guess that's nice, and, like, Vicious is okay, but, like, I'd rather have Trenchant Strikes and Trenchant Crits. Like, that's so much better. And then you can put a gem slot on there, too. Like, I think Vicious is just, like, not as good of a option, because your crit damage modifier is only 1.25, so it's like not super impactful there. AGS is clueless about balance changes, sadly. Yeah, I mean they put 2 new guys in charge, and I think they were combined have not been as effective as Dave. I know they've talked about making some things more like introducing some passives from offhands that will affect your main hands more, and like that being a balance point. But I just haven't seen any action. Like they've talked, but I just haven't seen them like actually do something yet. And they've been here for like 8 months. What weapons are you gonna be running at relaunch? If I were to run like a weapon at relaunch and pick the weapon, like right now, there's two that I think are very clearly the best. And if you guys want to guess, you can. But I'll give it like 10 seconds to see if anyone wants to guess, but I don't think anyone really wants to guess. But Greatsword is insane for being kind of alone. It just does really, really good output in PvE. The only problem is the best Greatsword is locked behind PvP, and it's like complete RNG to drop, and it's like really, really hard to get with Serenity. And the other thing I think is really, really good from PvE this upcoming change is Hatchet. Greatsword and Hatchet both have the ability to gain grit on their various effects, so I think that just makes them like strong, and they do like really good damage for PvE. And melee is always going to be better in PvE because crits actually matter in PvE, and if you're flanking, you have a guaranteed crit with a melee weapon. If you have a ranged weapon, you have to go for a headshot, and that's just not something people often like to do. Like it's like less damage overall than the melee weapons too for some reason. So I think there's a chance that some of the range might make it into the raid, because I know for the last raid, like bow was actually pretty good for it. It's just I don't have a lot of faith in it. I think Hatchet's like the very safe bet to go for. Like if you're starting a new character, like Hatchet's always very strong. Greatsword is strong. Sword is okay. Like some of these are okay, but they just aren't as strong from a solo perspective. Like Hatchet, the main thing that it has that's like really, really good is it has move speed passively with it. And a lot of these weapons just don't have a move speed, and you'd be surprised how much that helps you when you're like just adventuring around. So like there's some options that I think are just definitively better than other options in the early game, but the main thing is Hatchet and Greatsword I think are both good. Grace equals transmog. Yeah. Serenity is so OP that no one will ever use any other Greatsword. It's literally it. Like, you can't use another Greatsword when compared to Serenity, and that's, like, some of the problems that artifacts introduce. Is, like, if you have artifacts with, like, a broken extra perk, then, like, why would I ever play something else? Like, there's literally no reason to use another Blunderbuss except for Pestilence, because its passive is just better than, like, half the Blunderbuss passives, for example. Serenity has that same problem. Like, Finisher, there's no other Rapier that even comes close to this in terms of DPS from a single target standpoint. The ones that are really fun are like things like Scorpion Sting, which has a really unique effect, but they just haven't created a lot of unique artifacts. Like, they have the opportunity to be really, really unique, and I feel like Scorpion Sting was like the main one that was unique. They tried to make like Abyss and like some of these like then the Fire Staff one like more unique, but they just introduced a bunch of bugs and just haven't been as good. I think someone said they updated the Fire Staff one, no, but why don't I see the Fire Staff one? Just gonna go weapons, Fire Staff, and cheat. Someone said they updated this. 15% damage if you hit a target within 15 meters. I mean, it helps a little bit. I still don't think it's good though, because your dots don't scale correctly. The dots on this weapon, if you go into a strength-based thing, don't actually increase in damage. They do the int-based damage, so it's like you have to run this with int, and at that point, like, I guess Inner Power has a perk now with this, but it's like, I don't think it's insane. Charlita made a good Abyss build. Abyss is like actually like decent because it's not super dot based, but all the dots in Abyss just don't do that much. Because it's supposed to be both weapons now. Oh, so you could use this as an offhand. Is Fire Staff ever good as an offhand though? Because the problem with Fire Staff as an offhand, so if I look at Fire Staff, right? Like, your escape is burning out every single time. It doesn't have grit on it. Like, I guess it's like a okay enough escape. It's just like, it's not insane. And like, offhand's the first thing that you have to think about every single time is, does this have an escape ability? Like, a way to like disengage. So it's like, it seems fine. It's just, I don't know what you pair it with necessarily. I also think Fire Staff's like more of a main hand kind of thing. It's not like really an offhand kind of weapon. Like, unless they made it so that Meteor Shower is like passive and power carried to your other weapon, like, I don't know why I'd really use this with another weapon. I guess there's some synergy with like Hatchet because it's an extra dot effect and then you gain extra damage from your dots, right? I think that was a hatchet passive. Oh no, that's a spear passive. No. Yeah, all attacks deal 10% base damage to targets in active debuff. That's what I was thinking of. Like, it is something that could benefit Hatchet. I guess it could benefit Spear. Firestaff, Spear is so weird, though, because they conflict for the same identity, to where they both want to be, like, within 5 meters of each other and just chunking damage and not really doing anything else. But it would be kind of fun just to sweep someone and just burn them with the Firestaff. Meeker, would you say the new Firestaff is any good? I think it's interesting. Like, it's definitely, like, more viable than it used to be. If you use it with strength, don't expect the fire staff to do any damage, because the dot effects will likely still scale with int, because I had bet money on them not fixing that bug, even though I've reported it for like 1.5 to 2 years at this point. And if you're using it with int, then is there an int-based close damage weapon that you'd go with? Like, close range weapon? Not really. I don't think it really pairs with anything that well with int. Like, I guess you can go Ice Gauntlet, or you can go Rapier, and just use the Fire Staff as more of a main hand. Like, I don't think it's awful. I don't know if it's meta, but I don't think it's awful. Like, it's definitely viable. BB scales with int? Yeah, but it's not great scaling. It's like 60% scaling. Like, I don't think it shows it on here, the scaling, but BB's scaling with int's like it's only a fraction of what it is with strength. Scorp jab to repulsing clear out is the only combo. True. Nah, I just scorp jab into keg kill. It's this. Someone shared a PvP montage recently that was just a Lifestaff player just walking around, just scorpion people in the kegs, and it was the most fun thing I've watched from New World in the last 2 months. But in the end, even an artifact that are not high use rate can make some different builds fun to play. Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing about the artifacts, is that they introduce like a new dynamic, and the main thing is that they need to be like spicy enough to introduce something new. The unfortunate part is like the armor artifacts are literally just competing for which is the most OP artifact that hasn't been nerfed yet. And then it's funny because some of these artifacts are just like necessary for certain weapons too. Like, you have to run Mad Gauntlets with VG. If you're not running Mad Gauntlets with VG, like, you're not slottable as a VG. Like, it's not mandatory still, and it's just stupid and it's frustrating. With Fire Staff, the old, like, the artifact that they recently nerfed, the chest was really, really OP, and you just had to run that. And then there's other ones like Gladiator. It's like, if you're running Gladiator, you're literally throwing. And they just haven't really addressed balancing with a lot of these. And then because they're just polluting the amount of artifacts and not balancing the old ones, and it just doesn't feel like they're really creating a sustainable ecosystem there. Okay, I think we've kind of exhausted everything in terms of like this first video, so maybe we get into the second video. This is that player pop chart too. What pairing would you say is best for a fire mage that wants to win some fights in the new PvP zone? Firestaff Rapier by far. You can maybe do Firestaff Ice Gauntlet and try to cheese people with the Ice Pile one, but Firestaff Rapier is just generally more effective. Firestaff BB, it works if you go for like a nut shot oriented build, but if people collapse on top of you, BB's not really good at escaping. So like if you're versus a sword player and you have Firestaff BB, you generally won't do super well. The other noteworthy thing, like, some people would see this artifact that, oh, I lost my artifact. But some people would see that Fire Staff that we just talked about and be like, oh, just run this with BB. It will be really, really good because it has the strength scaling and the int scaling, and that's where you'd be wrong because it's either strength or int. It's not both. So it doesn't actually work well with BB at all. Even though you'd think it would be really, really good because it has strength and int. It's just like they didn't really code it that way. They just made it an absolute instead of being able to do one or the other. Anything to do to prepare for the update? I mean, make money because you can buy gear. Golden scarabs are used with some of the new recipes. The old BIS materials will be used with the new recipes. In terms of like what I'm doing, I'm not really doing anything. Like the way I've always operated with the New World stuff is people always talk about, hey, what's BIS? What's 3-perk BIS? Like, I will make some video in the near future that will probably be like, oh, here's 3-perk BIS, run this. But the truth is 3-perk BIS is like 95% as good, or is like maybe slightly better, like 5% better than like 2.5 perk bis. And people will sell 2.5 perk bis for like dirt cheap for some reason, and then they'll sell 3 perk bis for like your left kidney or something like that, like one of your kidneys. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I always buy like the cheap stuff, even though it's not as good, and I just rely on skill to beat people. I know some people just like try to always go for the best possible thing, but it just doesn't really make sense to me. Like it doesn't matter past a certain point. Like in terms of like mandatory perks next patch, like health, there's been some conversations of health not actually working that I kind of want to see from New World Buddy. Actually, I haven't looked at this. Oh, new buddy. I'm gonna look at health on New World Buddy and see if anything is like different real quick. I always forget where the New World Buddy PTR thing is here. PTR, there we go. So if I search for health, I just want to see if these perks are anything different. Why is it so weird looking? Okay, health perk, that's what I want. Is there anything different in terms of the mechanics here? I don't think so. Yeah, no, that's the same. So they just changed the description of health, but didn't actually change how it works. Health got nerfed. We thought it got nerfed because they added in this like base health criteria thing, but there's no effective change from live, so I think it's the same. Like they said base health, but it's still using max health here. What's the gold cap these days? I think it's 1 mil. Like you can make gold and that will help you always. Like it will help you gain an advantage. Did they ever increase it? Yeah, they changed it to 1 mil and then they didn't increase it past that. I don't know why there's even a cap. Like to me it doesn't really make sense. Like that's like one thing that people like to do in terms of endgame and like MMOs is like, oh, how much gold could you hoard? You know, it's kind of a silly thing to me, but like I know some people like to do that. Let me check YouTube side again. You could scream, you could spam scream Orm in a pump in the clumps. Yeah, if you have Mad Gauntlets, it's really good for that. They added in like some changes to VG so that there's like a cap in the amount of refreshing that you can proc off a certain person, but Mad Gauntlets make the refreshing proc so consistent that you could basically just go infinite anyway with a big enough clump. Because your crit chance is like ridiculously high, like maybe 60-70%, and then every time you don't crit, it increases your next chance of critting by the base crit multiplier of the weapon, which I think for VG is like relatively high, if I remember correctly, like 7 or 8%. That's health on amulet, not armor. Yeah, but they behave the same. The health on amulet and health on armor are coded the same. They're just like different values. Like health on amulet will say like what 0.07 or something like that, and then health on armor will be like 0.025 or 24, and it's like the same thing. So we have one other thing that like someone else shared with me, and this is supposed to be a little bit more insight into like what the devs are doing too, and we can kind of go into that. Did they fix the VG slide melee animation locking? I just remember missing people at the lunge and clip through them. Probably not. I don't know, but probably not. I haven't touched Void Blade in a while. Void Blade at one point was really good, and the change that made Void Blade like really bad is not something that anyone ever talks about, but they changed how Rend works with Void Gauntlet. Rend with Void Gauntlet was actually bugged for a long time, and it did Old Rend. Old Rend worked in a way that had multiplicative scaling, and this new version of this Rend is just like less effective. Like for reference, if the old Rend's damage ramped up like that the new Rend is like like it's just like you're missing out on like everything in between here, which is why Void Gauntlet just hasn't been used as a damage weapon in a very long time, because it just doesn't scale with anything else now. Aimbot will fix Void Blade. I don't think there's any fixing Void Blade. It's just not that good. It's okay. Like the best thing about Void Blade is that you could proc Fortify every time you use it. Like I've literally just used it as a way to proc Fortify when I'm out of stem, and then you just spam heavy attacks to walk away from people. And like I don't know of another way to really use Void Blade to get value. Like if you're using it offensively, I can name every other weapon in the game, and they're just better at Void Blade it is in PV, in terms of like straight up like 1v1. So it's like either a utility thing or it's a Fortify thing for Void Blade, unfortunately. It's just not been as good with the buffs and nerfs that have kind of come out recently. Mikro, they ruined the Bloodlust tree with the Great Axe due to new trees. Oh, they did? I thought the Bloodlust one would be the one that people actually go for. That's kind of sad. Shrinking Heel's still good. Shrinking Heel's it's really good in solo. It's not as good in group. But it's still pretty solid. The weird thing about Shrinking Heels is that it's really good with Onk, but Onk is really bad if you're in solo. So it's like a spot where it's like you kind of need to run Onk if you run Shrinking Heels, but if you run Onk, then your pots don't do anything. And I think there's a better pot setup with this next patch. It's just better than Shrinking Heels and that Onk kind of cheese thing. Like there's better ways to get access to more consistent healing. Okay, I'm gonna start this other video, do a similar vibe. It's a bit longer, so I probably will pause it at a few points here, but this is more of an interview kind of style thing.
I'm Emilien from the French media Jeux Online, and I'm really glad to be here with you in your Orange County studio for...
Is this volume quiet for you guys? I have it at max volume on YouTube, but I could turn it up for you guys if you want. It seems a little quiet to me. Yeah, too quiet? Okay, I maxed it out. Tell me if this is too loud.
Hi Scott, hi David. I'm Emilien from the French media Jeux Online, and I'm really glad to be here with you in your...
That's literally the max I can do without like going into volume settings and like upping everything. Still kind of quiet. What's the volume mixer is the thing, right? Time to blow my speakers out. There's Firefox. Okay. Is this loud enough?
Orange County studio for the press event around New World Item. For those who might not...
That sounds the same to me. It's not that quiet, it's fine. I'm just gonna max it out and just like see if I regret anything.
know you yet, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, okay, whatever, it's not getting louder.
I'm Scott Lane, game director on New World.
David Perfai, creative director.
Okay, so as I just mentioned, you guys organized a press event in your Orange County studio. So as video game journalists, had the chance to put our hands on the new content releasing with New World Item. Actually, on Jeux Online, most of our readers are PC players, and a lot of them has played New World in 2021 already. Could you explain us how New World Aeternum is different from original New World?
I'll start.
Try not to talk over him too much.
Yeah. So I think so New World Eternum is it's an action RPG open world game. You can play it solo, or you can play over thousands of people in a world, literally. It all takes place on the supernatural island of Eternum. So it's an action RPG.
Does he not have a cup holder? I'm sorry, this is bothering me so much. Like, the dude has a tiny water bottle and he's just putting it right in his crotch. Like, just put it on something else, man.
What I mean is the combat's physical.
Gross recording at the 2010 camera. Yeah, it's not great quality.
What makes it different than the 2021 version is, well, first off, it's coming out on console, PlayStation, and Xbox. But more than that, for the PC players, there's been a ton of optimizations. We've added a
This
raid,
is really good.
which is the culmination of the story at the end, a 10-person raid, the Hive of Gorgons. We've added a free-for-all PvP area at the end game.
The weird part about this is like you have to frame it in terms of like when someone left, right? Like this guy left in 2021. There's been a lot of, let me change that to be a bigger thing. They left in 2021. Like there's been a lot of stuff that's changed since 2021, but there's not been much change since 2023, for example. Like the biggest content drop in the game was arguably Brimstone's stands, and after that, Elysian Wilds is like smaller but introduced artifacts now. It's still pretty big. Like, but after that, there hasn't really been as much. Shot like a French art house film. It's gonna be flashbacks listening on professor's lectures recorded on Zoom through his laptop. Yeah, I just heard at this that they actually went into more depth, and I hope I wasn't baited.
We've done a ton of improvements to storytelling. We've revamped the whole starter experience. We've added cutscenes. There is a ton of new content here. And then we've also done a lot of polishing to the combat, so it feels more smooth and better. And you'll see the performance improvements across the game. Overall, like, while there are similarities, it's going to feel very different to people who played the game in the past.
It's definitely
I think
better,
just
but
to add a
target
couple
lock
of
is
quick
such a
things.
big
I think,
downside.
a lot of effort went in. We had previously released console support, but controller support. But you'll see the controller support. We've added a lot of nuance and polish to it so that the controller feels better than ever. Now you can remap controls.
They
Better
needed
aim
that.
assist. There's all sorts of additions. The dead zone has been tuned. All these little things that we got data on and we're able to iterate. It makes the controller feel really great in your hands. That combined with sort of the frame rate optimizations and all this sort of polish just makes the game play really smooth. And I think that's something I'm really excited about.
The main problem here is I love Dave usually, but it's not aim assist. Like aim assist, this is not it. It's target lock is basically aimbot. Like if I'm a character and I'm trying to shoot someone else and it's able to like change my arrow from like to like redirect where I'm aiming towards it, like that could be aim assist. But the instant like I'm looking over here, but I lock onto that guy and it swings around and hits this guy over here, like that's aimbot, and they're not distinguishing that at all. Like it's literally will track people through walls and all this shit. Like it's not aim assist. There's a big differentiator there.
One thing I forgot to mention in the differences is in New World 2021, you couldn't play the game solo beginning to end, right? New World Eternum, a massive effort went into not only having the game soloable from the beginning to the end, so you can play it all by yourself, or you can choose to play with friends. A portion of our end game now is also solo. So there's stuff for you to do it has a longer tail solo players.
So you just called New World Aeternum an ARPG and mentioned a lot of solo content coming to the game.
Right.
Those New World Aeternum being an ARPG make it less of an MMORPG.
It's hard, like, everything, games nowadays are blending between genres a lot. So when we say it's an ARPG, like our combat is very action RPG oriented. Our storytelling is much more in the action RPG camp now. But there's still there's a ton of players. It's a giant open world, so you can follow the story and have it feel very story driven and action RPG.
The one thing you can't say about New World is you can't say it's a sandbox MMO, which some games could like argue that they're a sandbox MMO and like you can do anything you want, like choose your own adventure. Like New World is a very story-driven MMO if you're about to think of it that way, where you only have one way to proceed forward. From an RPG perspective, I think that makes a little bit more sense to call it that, like in terms of you're following a linear story with quests set in basically a preset order until you hit the level 65 endgame, and then it's kind of like turns into more of a sandbox-ish experience, but even then not really. So they don't care about removing target lock. The console players want it, and they are the market now. I don't think console players are the whole market though. That's the reason why they added in some of this other stuff too. Like if I were to go back to I'm getting distracted again, but if I go back to this chart where we talk about like the data of the beta and like who played and who didn't, like yes, there are more console players than there were Steam beta players, but it's not much more. It's like 2 to 3 times as much as the Steam like PC beta. And if you take into account that there's PC and then you're comparing PC to Xbox and then PlayStation, then it kind of makes sense for Xbox and PlayStation to be like twice as amount as PC because they have literally twice as many areas to like kind of go after there. Like you have 2 opportunities here and have 1 opportunity there, so like it kind of makes sense. Like I don't think it's as big of a deal as they think, and that's one of the reasons why they have hid the player numbers.
You like, or you could get lost in the open world and go exploring and do things at your own pace, or you could just start playing with friends and getting around a ton of players. It's really like a game that allows you to play it the way you want to play it.
Great. Actually, we had the opportunity to check that this morning by testing the new PvP zone and also the new raid, which indeed are obviously very MMORPG specific activities. But with that, I have kind of a bigger scope question coming to my mind, which is why would you like to release New World Aeternum, an MMORPG, in the same time frame than another Amazon Games?
Are you guys okay if I put this at 1.5x? Because I feel like this is a 1.5x kind of video. Like, it's definitely a lecture, and I don't want to bore people. There is some content here. Okay, yeah, please. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna up that a bit.
MMORPG, which is Throne and Liberty.
I mean, I really only think about New World and what we're doing. That's where my focus is, New World Eternum. But they're very different games, and they're like different price models and stuff. So I would imagine it's like that. But we were building New World Eternum.
Okay, I actually have a funny thing here. This is a total aside because I reached out to someone that plays this game, and they gave me a leak on all the content that's coming to Throne and Liberty for the next year. And the funny thing to bring up here is they're adding a bunch of stuff that's like New World, but also like, look at the amount of shit they're adding per month. Like, for New World, if this is New World, right? This content right here, this takes 1 year. Throne and Liberty, this is taking like a month and a half. Like, November, we're adding in the war game. Like, what's the war game? They're literally ripping that from New World. They're adding in new challenge dungeons, but it's like, oh yeah, you know, in the span of 1 month, we added in this whole new game mode that a lot of people like to play in the end game. It's like, dude, like it makes me so jealous. But yeah, Throne and Liberty is in a pretty good spot if you actually look at the roadmap that's coming out for their game versus New World, assuming they deliver.
To come out, and we feel like it's ready to ship. We feel like it's in a position that we can't to launch it.
Well, about New World Aeternum, this soft relaunch has been announced at the last Summer Game Fest, and it caused quite a lot of negative feedback from the
Unreal Engine 4
It
versus
seems that
Lumberyard, pretty
after
much.
the decreasing amount of content through season 4, 5, while you guys were precisely preparing the New World Aeternum.
Noteworthy thing, they skipped an entire season here because they were preparing. Like, they didn't even have like the balls to like go from like season 6 to like season 7 or something like that. They're just like, oh, you know, we're gonna call it season 6 and make it run twice as long and not update the rewards. Like, they did stupid things like that.
Aeternum release, the PC community felt left behind by this announcement that were mainly aimed at console players. So, what would you like to say to PC players today, and why would you describe New World Aeternum as a big addition for everyone, PC players included?
Well, we'll both take a shot at this. I think from my perspective, one of the things that the PC players have been asking for the most is like more in-game content. The new 10-player raid and the giant free-for-all PvP thing. We tried to hit both sides, the PvP player and the PvE experience. But more than that, I think all of the optimizations we've done make the PC experience play way better. All of the stuff Dave mentioned earlier that we've done to make the combat better, all of that's for PC as well. Our storytelling, all of that goes to our PvE players on the PC. So we've tried to build this experience.
That's
much better
fair.
experience for PvE.
Like, the optimizations actually are like the biggest thing that have come out of this for the last year from a PvP perspective, and it's the thing I think that's like talked about the least. Like, the fact that some people have gone from like 60 FPS setups to like 120 with like one patch is ridiculously impressive. But in like the same area, and like even more players in the area, like it's insanely impressive the amount of optimizations they've done. It's just the other stuff just hasn't really been up to there. But if you look at it from like a optimization standpoint, like, yeah, they've reinvented the wheel, you know, like Unreal Engine like has existed. AWS is not gone with that, and while they are going to have to invent a lot of new things in Unreal Engine, I imagine they would have had to modify some off of too for MMO of space. Like, they've effectively reinvented the wheel, made it like very, very polished at a very low level language too.
For the PC as well as console. And then I think another thing is like the game is more fun when there's like a lot of servers and they're all full. Bringing in more players is going to make that more fun for PC players as well.
If they kill New World PvP, then Throne and Liberty is just a better game.
Because of the way
That's what I was saying to people that were playing Throne and Liberty. I was like, hey, can you show me what this like Throne and Liberty endgame content looks like? Because like if they made New World tab target, like I don't see a single reason to play New World over Throne and Liberty. And like I saw it, and like to me it just it has like the very like Japanese, like Korean, I say them together because I don't know how to distinguish between them, like art style, or it feels like you're like an anime hero sort of kind of thing, and that just doesn't really vibe with me. Like the New World like Western MMO part's like kind of a big deal, and for me, like I know there's some people that, like want to stay in the MMO like genre, but like if there's not a good Western MMO, like I don't have to play an MMO, you know. I can go to Deadlock, I can go to First Descent or something like that. Like there's other games and other genres that are good, and you shouldn't really just be bound to one genre. Like you played Power World before Nintendo sues the crap out of that company. Ugh, good luck to them. But yeah, there's like other options.
console development works, it gave us a long period of time to iterate and bug fix. And I think one of the things PC players have also asked for is, hey, we want a stable, bug-free game. And I think when a tournament launches, we'll have had a lot of effort on that. I think it's going to be just a solid foundation for this game. And I think that's going to allow us then to focus on content in the future also, which I think will be great.
Okay.
The bug-free in terms of movement, there's still a lot of like data-related things that have a lot of bugs associated to it that I don't think AGS easily patches. The only times I've got AGS to fix like bugs related to data is like literally when I point out in the code they're mistaken what they need to change the value to, and then I'll just copy and paste like what I did. If I identify an issue and act as sort of a QA role, they just don't do anything. And those people that I think used to do stuff when like I'd point out shit and like tell them like, hey, you need to fix this because this is a bug. I think most of those people have left to other companies too because they just didn't like the direction in which the game was moving. And I also think that AGS is like kind of a career suicide long term because it's just like a different engine and something anyone else is using. So if you want to go from AWS, or I say to AWS, if you want to go from Amazon like AGS to a different game studio, you're gonna have to learn an entire and like work in an entirely different engine. Like if they ask you for like a work sample or something like that, like you're probably not going to be able to as easily produce that because of your background in New World. So it's like stuff like that that like I think prevents them from acquiring talent and makes it so that like the game can't iterate as fast as well. Foundation, how are you still building a foundation? That's a really good point too. Like, sorry, I keep talking over this video, but like the game came out in 2021. How is it 3 years later and we're still talking about the 0 to 30 experience on the open beta and we're not exploring the endgame experience at all? Like, how are we not tackling endgame, and how is our best endgame thing like one, like what, they've done 2 raids so far in 3 or 4 years, and they've introduced artifacts. Like everything they've done so far, in my opinion, has been like a ripoff of other MMOs, but they haven't even, or not even MMOs, but like rip off of other games, and they just haven't stolen like the best parts about everything. Like the fact that they have the audacity to call the new PvP area the Miss, which is a direct rip off of Albion, and it's like significantly worse than the Miss, but very similar in terms of concept. It's like so frustrating to me as someone that like played Albion for like 3 months now. And just to see what that game's like, because I think that they nailed a lot of the data side of that game and just have not a New World. It's like, dude, it's like, don't just steal someone else's thing, call it the same name, and be half as good. It's just like disingenuous.
I think that they have done a great job supporting us.
One OPR map skull, true.
And we tried to answer their requests. It may not always come as fast as they want, but we're always listening. And we're always trying to do what we think is best for them.
So with New World Itanum being an MMORPG and moreover a live service game, how do you intend to make community feedback an important part of your development cycle?
That's a good question.
100%. Like right off the bat, like I mentioned this to you when we got lunch today, that we're, we already have some more PvP ideas that are in the works that we're working on. So I'm supposed to keep it.
So do I let him talk here? Yeah, let him talk and then I'll pause.
Yeah, something that we're getting asked about. Like I see a lot of requests for that from the PC audience. And as as the game launches, we're going to pay really close attention to balance changes we made and see what they have to say, and we're going to use that to help us make decisions in the changes we make.
So I understand that.
Okay, so I'm going to pause there. So I've talked about this before with this new World thing that came out. So there was an NDA version of the build, and then there was the closed beta, which was also under NDA, and then there was the open beta, and then there's another NDA version of the build. These other versions of the NDA version, like version of the build, these go out to a group called the New World Experts. And within this group of New World Experts that has to sign this NDA, there is only one like active PvP player that I'm aware of. A lot of this is like PvE speedrunners. So you do not have PvP representation. Like this is not a thing. It's basically all PvE. And it's hardcore PvE and it's casual PvE that's driving decisions. And because AGS uses that as a main source of their feedback, and it's like sort of like an echo chamber for them to bounce ideas off of, like a lot of the stuff that comes out is going to be directed towards this PvPE experience. And they don't even like listen to the PvE side because it's just like not an active like component anymore. There were more people that used to be on the PvP side, but most of them have quit the game, or they kind of got driven off of helping AGS because AGS wasn't taking action for feedback they were providing, and it just doesn't feel genuine because it's not genuine. And they really are a PvE focused game with some PvP elements now. It's not a PvP game. The fact that you're not on the panel is insane. I was recommended to join that panel by like half a dozen people in the experts group, which is why I know it exists, because I was told, hey, we're gonna be recommending you to join the experts group. Last time this happened to me and I got recommended, I got reached out to within a month, and then I signed the NDA build, and then I got access. Like at this point, I wouldn't expect them to ever add me, because I think I definitely stir the pot for them. But like in terms of people that know the game, there's not many people left that know the game as well as I know, and I don't even know it that well. Like I know it decently well, but I don't know it that well. So like they don't listen to the people in the expert group for the referrals either. I don't know what to tell you.
That you guys cannot come with a roadmap or something because you wish to analyze console players' in-game behavior before committing to anything. But then maybe you can tell us a little more about the PvP island coming with New World Data now?
To be fair, too, I don't think I'd actually sign the NDA thing at this point, because then I couldn't talk about half the stuff I like tried like crossing a gray line for other people too. Like I don't think it's worth it from what I know about the devs. Like it's not worth like crossing that line for that repercussion. Just like it's also not worth it to start a free trial of Disney, because you can get sued if you and not be able to, or you wouldn't be able to sue Disney because of a food allergy that your spouse died from because you signed a Disney Plus a free trial because of stuff that you forfeit in the terms and conditions. Like it's just not worth it for those like weird legal standpoints. Like it doesn't feel worth it.
Oh, you mean about the color skis on?
Yeah,
Oh, Dave,
If you know that news article, you know.
Christmas is a free-for-all PvP zone. So when you cross the border into this area, you're automatically flagged into PvP. And then inside the zone,
PvE is the majority of them. Yeah.
One, there's a lot more resources. The density of resources and the amount you get per
It was not at
gather
launch,
is
though.
super high. And second, there's what we are calling the cursed doubloons. So you can get them from killing enemies or a lot of them in chests. So it's this idea of like it's a super high reward area, but there's a lot of risk because you get auto flagged. And what's neat about it is you can sort of choose your own level of risk, right? Like you can dabble around the outsides and just sort of gather a little bit, get a couple of chests, and then get the hell out of Dodge. Or you can go all the way west. Like the zone goes mostly east to west. One of the neat things is we added a lot of actual space, right? Like this is, a lot of new territory was added here to expand the zone. And the further in you go into the zone, the riskier, the more rewarding it gets. And then the best part is like the runs out, right? Because like then you got to sort of escape everything, and that run is like the heart starts beating when you know you've got a backpack full of resources and the balloon that you're just I think it's a neat way for players. You don't have to queue.
The other interesting thing here too, so there's a very different component to this, and like I think the meta for this will be had gear swaps. Like at a certain point you want gear to get kills, right? But then also at a certain point you want gear to get out. And if you want to get out, there is nothing tankier in the game than going SNS with the rapier, going 500 con, and just like walking away. Like you will be perfectly fine, and that's like an invincibility like build that I will probably happily put together for people that like kind of want to just PvE but and gather there, but it's not going to be good at PvP at all. Like but you will exist. So there's like loot pinata builds that like, hey, if you want to just leave and you have a bunch of shit on you, like you might want to go heavy, go max con, like do everything you can to live. But like if you're looking to be more aggro, then you want to be in these lower con, like higher DPS oriented builds, so you can pick people off, and like that will be like kind of a fun dynamic if it actually plays out. I don't think it will play out though because of teaming issues that I've talked about earlier, but it will be interesting if it actually like occurs.
Well, you don't have to have a company or a faction. It's just something you can do and dabble in whenever you want.
It's kind of cool too because like depending on what time of day you go, you'll have a different experience. And that's kind of neat. You might try to go in the middle
Weekly
of the night.
coconuts and
As far as
weekly
I know,
chests
it
makes
was
it feel like
chest in
this
the
will be
zone,
90%
and
dead
like
in the
other
month.
chests
It
in the
probably
game,
will
those
be.
aren't instanced, and this to prevent collision. What would you say are the main incentive for players to risk themselves in this solo PvP area?
I'll start, but it's like you mentioned this, that the resources are plenty there. So you're going to have access to a lot more resources if you can get out safely.
Sure.
And then the doubloons you'll take back to the settlement, and there's a well where you can convert those into rewards.
It is one of three ways to get, so we are increasing the gear score with Eternum, and it is one of the three ways to get it. It's the raid, it's this PvP zone, and other PvP activities. We haven't talked yet about that, but there's a neat bonus coming for all the 3v3 and OPR things out there.
Oh yeah, they're adding like a weekly chest or something like that to 3v3 and OPR, right? That gives rewards, so it's something there? Or are they gonna add... I really hope they add in like MMR-based rewards, but like that's never gonna happen. If they added that, like, oh my god, that would transform... If they made like OPR like competitive, like, oh... I bet the next bonus is that trash chest. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't think it's actually gonna be that good. Yo, what are we watching? We are watching a interview with a French YouTuber where the devs go into a more in-depth discussion about the stuff that's coming. There's also a separate video that New World released that's more popular, but doesn't really go into anything in super big depth. This is more of an interview style and goes into a lot more depth. Both these are in the Discord too. Let's see, I could do the command on Twitch and then I could throw it in the YouTube chat too. And there's been a lot of this conversation has been like, has occurred in the Discord as well.
I had the opportunity to see on socials that all the named items from previous dungeon and open world boss will be non-upgradable to the new maximum gear scores, 725, as it might invalidate a lot of content in the game. What is the reason for this?
So the named items are not, but the artifacts can be upgraded to 725. The reason for that is we wanted to sort of incentivize some of the new content, right? Like I said, if you want the 725 gear, it's the 3 avenues I previously talked about. And what we see also is that like the 700 gear that you've got now will have the perfect perks, right? Like you'll have curated it over a while, built it out. So there's still a lot of value there until you get the right one. It's going to be great bridge gear to have, sure.
Well,
it's also better in some circumstances to have the less gear score, but he should not talk about that there. And that's something that every time I bring up, I think ADS is like, say what? And it's like, yeah, like I tested this again and it's still an issue. And it's like, dude, so stupid. But they just don't really understand it. They don't fix it. Like they kind of half-ass fix it. But if you run a 25, I think the lowest you can get is like either 25 or 75 gear score offhand. That will always make it so that you deal more damage and you take less damage. And I like recommend that for any build that has a utility offhand.
Scott, David, thank you for your time and dedication today. I would also like to thank all the members of the development team that played with us. It was great to go with them through the new world item, new contents. And I would also like to special thanks the Amazon Games communication team, so Jen, Veronica, Rebecca, because both the event and the trip were really well organized.
Thank you for coming all the way here. It's a long trip. Thank you.
It was Nephistos from John Online. I hope you liked the video.
Yeah, I mean, it talked about some cool stuff here. I mean, definitely a better interview than the other stuff, and it was a little bit like more, like he actually kind of dug into it a little bit more, but he definitely like didn't like rail him or anything like that. Definitely wasn't bad though. We actually have a bug where your 700 gear score gear is better than 725, so you don't need to upgrade them. Yeah, I mean, it's better to even go lower than that. But I don't know. Good question, awful answer. Yeah, I mean, it's political. You're never. It's like trying to get a politician to give a straight answer. You know, like it's always going to be the answer that you want to hear for that context and won't actually be like straight. So, but yeah, I don't think the New World stuff is bad. There's a few questions that I kind of postponed that I want to get back to. Like this wasn't bad. It's just like, it's kind of mid. Here's to hoping the Romanian devs can fix the glaring pugs. There's a question I skipped earlier from the YouTube chat. What do you think about that 25% damage when you hit an enemy with less than 15% mana with Rapier and VG for PvE? To be honest, I don't remember what this is talking about, because I don't remember seeing a change to that to Rapier or to VG necessarily. And I'm hoping someone can like point that out. But a Rapier as a whole is in a good spot because of the bleed Rapier, but it's best for single target stuff. VG is a utility weapon for PvE because Baleful Tethers and Power applies to your offhand. So you can just throw this on something, have your offhand out, and then just get value. So it's like often if you want to like min-max your PvE setup, like you can just go Rapier with VG, throw on Tether on a boss, like maybe throw on Essence Rupture if you want some heals, and then your whole group is just kind of chilling and you barely even need a healer. So there's like a lot of stuff there's been nice. That is nice. Oh, sorry, McDudes. Gotta earn enough to pay for the fast food around here. The $5 foot long isn't a thing anymore. Just kidding. I haven't played in over a year. Was Void Gauntlet nerfed? It depends like when you left, but effectively yes. I think Void Gauntlet peaked before they changed how Rend worked. And then when they changed how Rend worked, if you don't understand that, then it's like after that point, it peaked again at like when Mad Gauntlets came out, and now it's been kind of in a similar spot. Ayo Micro, now that you're playing Deadlock, will you also play Marvel Rivals? They're kind of different games in my eyes. I think Deadlock to me is a little bit more entertaining than Marvel Rivals, but Marvel Rivals doesn't look bad. I generally think that 6v6 to me is just a lot more fun than 5v5 in those games for some reason, because you can have like players that focus like on niche things that like really improve your team play that aren't like foundational cores, if that makes sense. Like Overwatch, like when you had 6v6, your off tank could do a lot. It made a lot of comps a lot more flexible. And that's someone that like played in like a semi-pro level in that game and like coached at a very high level in that game. Like that made the game a lot more dynamic than 5v5, and 5v5 is a lot more just like pew pew pew, kill people. Like that's cool, but there's not like a lot of like thinking involved with it, if that makes sense. Like everything's a lot more basic. The hero playstyle is pretty similar though. Yeah, I mean it's very vertical, which I like. The movement is less sexy though, like a lot less sexy. Deadlock's movement's like really good to the point where it might be the best movement of any game I've played. Like even better than Apex or in like Titanfall, which is crazy. Deadlock has way more potential regardless of the current state. Yeah, I mean it's Valve too. Valve is I mean they've dealt with like a cheater problem in the past, but like Valve is about the best publisher that you can get. Throne and Liberty is very interesting. Can't wait to try that. Yeah, I mean this is what I mean about New World at this point. Like there's like a lot of other games that do other parts better. Like New World, when it came out 3 years ago, had best in class PvP, and that was the reason a lot of people played it. And now that that's gone, a lot of the people that are left are like kind of the PvE indies, I would argue, and it's like a little bit, it's like not, it's lost that niche that it had. Like a lot of people played New World are like, oh my god, this is like really good combat, and then it's like they've kind of moved away from the combat being the focus and tried to focus on other things, and it's kind of left it and being like half. It's just not good at anything. Valve, Keck. I just hope Deadlock doesn't get the Counter-Strike treatment. You can't see the YouTube chat? I mean, the YouTube chat, I have it on the sidebar. It's down here. The YouTube chat's a lot larger than the Twitch chat. This is a little bit different. Usually the Twitch chat's a lot larger than the YouTube chat, but we're changing it up today, which is kind of cool. Mika, where could I find stuff like how Ren currently works? I probably need to make an updated video, but if you look at any video I made that explains that in the last year, this is my cop out, then it will be accurate. But I can do the high level explanation here. See, a blank page is still a site that exists. I feel like no, why'd they make it white? I don't like white pages. Okay, we're doing a giant notepad. And not using my notes for the last YouTube video because I actually wrote notes for once, which is an improvement for me. Because then I wasn't rambling as much, but then still got told that I was talking for too long. It's like I tried. You going back to New World? Probably not like long term. Like I will help with New World, but I don't expect to. Like I have 7 characters right now. I expect to get maybe 1 character to 725, and like everything else to like I'll just buy whatever gear's okay. And if people like really want me to war, then like maybe I'll war for them if they buy me like 2 perk bis. But like I don't expect to like to full dive into New World. Throne Liberty has ultimately lost money up until now. The only way it becomes successful is if it succeeds in the Western release. I've watched Throne Liberty stuff. It looks kind of funny. But in terms of like New World and how the damage works right now, damage is calculated by a few factors that multiply times each other. And these factors are your base damage, your empower, if the target has rend on them. Am I forgetting anything else, or are those the 3 big ones? There's other stuff too. I haven't done this kind of spiel in a while, but these are the 3 big ones. And there's, well, I guess there's also like there's a gear score factor. And like kind of a fortify factor that also counters rend as well. So like rend and fortify are kind of opposites. So like these work against each other. Empower and weaken are opposites. And then base damage doesn't really have, well, I guess there's base damage reduction, and that effectively has an opposite. So those are like the big things. And then there's also ABS. I forgot about ABS. This is another big one. There's ABS. And then there's also... let me move the ABS down a little bit. Like, there's ABS. And then there's also a PvE factor if you're playing PvE, or a PvP factor if you're playing PvP. And all these multiply by each other. And if you're trying to maximize damage in New World, your goal is to make all these numbers as big as possible. So it's not about... Oh no, did my epic pen break? Oh no. Oh crap. That's not good, because I know if I force close this, it's not going to restart super well. But I'll try to restart it. Basically, you want to maximize these numbers as big as possible, because of the way that the compounding works here. The more that you can increase these numbers overall, the bigger the output of damage will be. A lot of people look at this and are like, oh, I just want to maximize my base damage. And it's like, no, that doesn't work well, because then if other people have other factors against you, then you just won't do damage. So if you have infinite base damage, but you're 100% weakened, you'll still, like, not do anything. Even though there's a cap for weaken and things like this. So I just lost my epic pen. And because I lost my epic pen, I can't erase this. And because I can't erase this, it's just going to remain on the screen forever. So that's wonderful. Oh, Epic Pen's content service display 1. Does that get rid of it? Yay, okay, we lost Epic Pen and we won't gain it back, but we can use Paint in the future. But yeah. I don't know. That's how damage works. Rend effectively functions, like, all those used to function, like, exponentially, if that makes sense. Like, they'd just be a strict multiple. Rend has, like, a reducing factor because it's tied to armor now, and armor has a reducing factor, and same thing with Fortify, that make it so it functions like in a linear scaling, versus a lot of those other factors function in a quadratic scaling, which makes it so that Rend effectively gets a lot less value than other forms of reducing damage, and Fortify gets a lot less value than other forms of, or Fortify gets a lot less value at reducing damage, Rend gets a lot of value at increasing damage, so both of those factors are generally less good to focus on now than they used to be. But things like Weaken are really, really strong, ABS is really, really strong, and there's not many ways to get ABS, and there's a good amount of ways to get Weaken, but ABS is the main one that people sleep on. Alright. So now I'm gonna, like, kind of transition to, like, AMA kind of thing, I guess. Like, if people have questions about random stuff, I'll answer it, and then after this, I probably want to eat dinner, because I haven't ate dinner yet, and if there's still football on, watch football. For a bit and just chill. Maybe make a video, but we'll see how much motivation I have after I watch football. So, flashbang? Yeah, it's a bit of a flashbang there. That interview is nothing? Yeah, I got told that was a good interview. I'm not listening to Kolensky ever again. That interview was mid. The questions were okay. It's just like they weren't, like, really answered. The OPR and 3v3 based reward is the only juicy nugget that was given there. How does this guy with even 1.52 or 1.25k gubs get an exclusive interview with the devs? That's what I am asking, but I don't really want to be that guy. Like, stuff's just bigger now. Oh, you can link to Discord like that? Oh, that's cool. I mean, to be fair, this guy has, like, a way better thumbnail than I have. Like, my thumbnails are actually terrible, but, like, these, like, you know, like, okay, they're not really that good. Okay, my thumbnails might be better than this. My thumbnails are pretty bad. Oh, he played in War too. Oh, that's cool. I don't think I know any of these companies though. But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, I don't know. The company the guy worked for is a French gaming site. Gotcha. So it's probably the French gaming site that got him in. Do we gotta repay for New World? Not if you bought the Elysian Wilds expansion. If you didn't buy that, I think you have to pay for that. And that's not on sale. How much is this? It's not $70 if you bought the base game. I think it's like 30 or something like that. it just introduced like artifacts, and that was the big thing. Yeah, it's $30. So it costs $30 if you're a PC player before and you're coming back. If you're a console player, it will be 70. And I think you can get New World on sale and then buy the DLC, and it's like cheaper than like some of the bundles that you can get. But I don't think it's available to console. I think it's only available to PC. What does ABS stand for again? It has no meaning. ABS is like absolute like damage reduction. Like I don't know. Like it's an acronym that's internally used with AGS, but what it corresponds to is fortifies, like from not fortify. It's a bad word to use, but if, like your gem reducing effects that reduce damage have ABS. Sword and Shield's aura has ABS, and like those are the two big factors of ABS that exist in the game. Everything else is like not really ABS. And that's just another multiplicative scaling factor, and they just named it terribly. And the data mine people just use ABS because it says that in the data mine, and it makes it a lot more clear to say what you're talking about to other nerds. But it's not named well. Still no damage reduction or duration reducing on stuns. There's freedom, but there's also passive freedom that's baked into being light, medium, or heavy. So that will reduce the duration of some of the stun effects. There's also things that if you don't like stun effects, play 300 Dex. If you switch weapons, it will cleanse all roots and stun effects. There's also heart runes now. Heart runes, there's a very popular one called Stone Form that will also cleanse all the CC and stun effects on you. There's also a popular work called Purifying Heart that will also cleanse all CC effects on you if you pop your heart rune for the other heart rune. The main thing to note there is Purifying Heart doesn't work with Stone Form for some reason, because those have been bugged for a very long time, and I don't think are... hopefully they're fixed in the beta, but I wouldn't put my money on it. So even with Elysian Wilds, I gotta pay 30. No, if you have Elysian Wilds, you have to pay 0. Like, yeah, it's free. If you have Elysian Wilds, you come back. If you left earlier than that, you cannot. Elysian Wilds is the threshold there. I'm gonna move back to looking at Twitch chat again. Absorption micro? Yeah. Deadlock later, also state of play tomorrow. I mean, you could do something like that. Did you see all that Quintfall released their third beta this 17th of December? No, to be honest, I don't even know what Quintfall is. How confident are you that they'll deliver on a roadmap being right after lunch, Micro? 0%. They will promise that there will be a roadmap, and then they'll be like, actually, we decided we don't want to release a roadmap because we think that we know what we're doing. So they'll make up some like BS thing, but they won't release a roadmap. And if they do release a roadmap, it won't be accurate to what they'll actually do past probably 2 weeks. I don't think so. Why does this man always want to watch football? Because the Bengals are playing today, man. I like the Bengals. Dude, I don't know. Football's chill. And as I've gotten slightly older, I've realized that coming home from work and I'm kind of tired and sometimes I just want to chill. And in football, I can just like chill on the couch and be like, yeah, this is comfy, and become fat, but I'm not fat. I don't know. What do you want to see next on the roadmap, Micro? Selfishly, I want to see OPR have rewards tied to competitiveness on like an MMR based ladder that is like in game. That's selfishly what I want to see from a PvP perspective. I think OPR is the best endgame content New World has, and they need to add a new map, and they need to add MMR to that and to like 3v3. And based off of like what percentile you end up with at the end, then you gain exclusive rewards or something like that, like a skin or something stupid. But enough to make people grind, so that there's like some tribe hard form of content that's always going on to satisfy the niche itch for PvP players. And then I also think that they, from a PvE standpoint, they need to rework mutations, make the unique effects like actually like, I don't know, like change the gameplay loop and figure out something to do with like the gemming system in PvE, because I think it's completely boring that people just stack infinite gems towards one resist and run into a mutation, don't even think about mechanics and call it a day. and after that, like rework invasions, make them actually have meaningful content. Basically, just update old content to have rewards that exist in parallel with existing content after like 2 to 3 months, and then just have everything like out there for people to do. We know you're fat, Mikro. I have never been over 135 pounds in my life, and I've never been under 130 pounds since like first or second year of high school. I used to be like care about athletic stuff. I don't anymore. Like I don't think I have my school records anymore, but I set school records for track at the time, and I stood for like 4 or 5 years, and it was kind of cool. How tall are you, if you're comfortably saying? Like 5'10", like 5'9", 5'10", like very average sprinter height, but it was a good sprinter. Why do you not win on DraftKings lineup? I'm not betting on football. I just like to watch it. It's just chill. Uh, I think I'm gonna end it there for now then, unless there's anything else. But I'm gonna go chill for a bit, maybe make a video out of this. I don't think I'm gonna play Deadlock right now because I kind of want to watch football over playing Deadlock, and then maybe I'll play a little Deadlock earlier, but probably off stream. I don't know, Deadlock's a fun game to stream, but it's also like a game that like I have a hard time playing for like 3 hours straight or 3 or 4 hours straight because it's like it's very intense where I'm playing right now in terms of like elo and like thinking about all these like a bunch of things, and it's just like it's hard to juggle that and chat from my experience. Like I'm not good enough. So Copium, I was drunk once. True. All right. Deadlock seems good for a couple of short streams here and there. Yeah, it's not bad for that. Okay, I'll see you guys later. I don't know who still plays New World, to be honest, and stuff like that, so I'm probably not going to host anyone, but check out other people if you have questions. Like, there's, like, Andy, I know, is, like, pretty good in terms of, like, talking about both PvE and PvP, and then I'll see you guys later.